is Julie Fei-Fan Balzer, and today I'm going to take you through the editing functions on your ScanNCut. Show you today how the editing interface works. So I'm going to choose pattern, and I'm just going to choose a random pattern from the built-in designs like this star, okay? And we're going to go straight now into here. Now, what do I mean when I'm talking about the editing interface? I'm talking about what do these buttons do? What do all these things do? So I have a star here, and if I hit the major editing panel right here in the upper left corner, you can see I have a lot of different options come up. The trash can is simply going to allow me to delete this, which I don't want to do because I want to work with it. This is just how I can nudge things. It's the nudge tool. So you can see you can nudge it in any direction, however you want. Simple enough. And you can zoom in, of course, just like that. Scroll down if you have something lower, and hit OK. Now, options that are grayed out like this, you're unable to use at this moment. And I'll show you why that is in 1 second. So for instance, these are all things that work only for multiple images. And because I only have one image, it's not going to work. However, if I go into this panel right here, the square with the 2 sets of arrows, there are a number of options here. First of all, I can resize anything, and notice how as I change the height, the number on the width also changes, okay? I can also change the number of items. I can make it as high as I want, as many as will fit on there. For now, let's do 3 of them. That seems like a great number. The other thing I can do is I can choose right here. This is how you add a seam allowance. So if I click on that, it's going to add whatever the seam allowance is that I have set under the settings button here. You can see it's set to default at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's adding a 1/4 inch seam allowance right there. And if you don't want the seam allowance, you simply hit the button again to remove it. If I wanted to flip this star, let's say it weren't a symmetrical item, this is what allows me to flip it so it goes the other way. And I'll choose another image to show you how that works so it'll be a little more clear. This is a rotate tool. And again, you can choose 90 degrees, 10 degrees, 1 degree, and you can combine it. Like I want to turn it 90, but then I want to go in a 10-degree increment, then I want to go in a 1-degree increment. You know, it's really, you are the boss of this machine in so many ways, and you just always hit OK when you're satisfied. So we've chosen 3 of them at this height. That's great. And notice, by the way, that we can't release the aspect ratio. That's what this button is, and I'll show you what that is again with a different shape. So, and again, anything that is grayed out like this, you can't use at that moment. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Here are my 3 stars. Now notice that all of these have come alive, which is kind of exciting, okay? Now these tools allow you to jump straight from image to image, item to item. And it's a great way when you scan something in to see if you have any tiny stray marks that your eye may not have caught, is I tend to just bounce that around to see where all the cuts are, okay? This is the selection tool. And now I have 2 choices here. I can either select with my arrow tool. So let's say I only wanted to select 2 of these and hit OK, and that only selects the 2 of them. Or I can select all. This will select everything on the canvas using that key. And again, you can zoom in to see what you're doing. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, if I have them all selected, I have 2 different choices here. Now, the circle with the triangle attached, that's welding, meaning it's going to become a single shape, whereas the circle with the triangle off to the side means it's going to group it so it'll move as one. So let me show you first what grouping is. So if I group these, okay, and it will ask me if it's okay to unify the patterns. I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. Now, do you see how there's only 1 square around here? I can no longer move these individually. They become one large shape. They're not touching, but they're a completely unified file. So let's hit OK because I want to show you some of those things with a slightly different shape. We're going to go back home. OK. Pattern. Now let's choose an unsymmetrical shape, shall we? How about, okay, this leaf is a great one. So there it is. Okay, there's my leaf. And notice many of the same things are in this panel that were in the editing interface. The first you can see here is the 1/4 inch seam allowance, right? Adds it right there. Then, of course, there's the flipping. And you can see now with this non-symmetrical piece how different that is. And then all the choices for rotating are here. So there are many places at which you can do the same thing. It's just where you choose to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit set. There it is. And again, I can do the same thing where I can add multiples, okay, like that, something like that. Let's just do 2 of them right there. Now, the weld tool, let's talk about what that does. So let's say I want these leaves to become one big leaf. So I've overlapped them slightly on here. That's really important. I'm going to go ahead and select all, and now I'm going to choose the welding tool. It's going to give me a preview, can you see that, of exactly what it's going to look like when it's welded. It becomes one big dancing leaf thing, which is awesome. That's what I want. I say okay, okay, and now look at this. I have one big dancing leaf shape. People do this a lot with titles. You could weld a word to the bottom of these flowers, leaves, anything like that, your choice. Okay, now I want to show you again one other little thing, which is if you choose, let's say, something like a square. Okay, well, you'll notice that you now have an added option of aspect ratio, as I mentioned before. So a square is because the sides are equal. The height is 3.94, the width is 3.94. If you click the aspect ratio button, they will not change at the same time. What will happen is I can change just the width, making this a rectangle. However, if I click this again, and now I change the width, these are going to change at the same time. So when the button is not highlighted, it means that they're changing at the same rate. When you do highlight it, it means you can change each side individually to whatever you'd like to really customize the shape to what you want it to be. Okay? And let's set this right there. Now, one other thing that I think is really cool that you can do is you can rearrange the shapes, and that's what this triangle little shape here is. And in fact, it actually works best with a triangle, so why don't we go back home, hit OK to the patterns, and let's go ahead and grab a triangle. But let's be crazy. Let's do a rounded triangle. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and let's give ourselves 5 or 6 or 7 of them. Sounds like a good number. We'll hit set. So they're arranged here on the mat. Now, what is going to happen is I have several options under these triangles, and it's exactly as the icons show. For the first one, it will arrange the items in the way to use the least amount of paper or fabric or wood veneer or whatever it is you're cutting. So if I hit that, you'll see, look how it rearranges them to conserve your space. And this only works with machines that are from the built-in designs of your machine. It does not work with any machines that you import. Designs that you import into the machine. Now this is going to arrange things so that they're basically, as the triangles show, so that they're in rows, you know what I mean? So that the shapes are facing each other. And this is going to arrange them so that it's not actually going to arrange it so that they're exactly lined up. It's going to arrange them so they're all facing in the same direction. Okay, facing in the same direction, facing in 2 different directions, and using up the least amount of space possible. Okay, so it doesn't matter what direction they're facing in. But that's a great tool for getting a lot more shapes onto your page or your fabric or whatever it is. Of course, I think you're probably very familiar with the scan button. That allows you to scan in any material. The add button allows you to go in and choose an additional shape or 2 or whatever it is that you'd like, and go ahead and add that in. Okay, you can see that there. And now I can actually choose to rearrange all of these different shapes just like that. And look how much room I have now to go ahead and add another one. If I really love this design and I want to use it over and over, I can, of course, choose save. And I can save it into the machine or to my USB. You can see you have those 2 options there. And if I don't want to do either of those, I can go right back using the back button. So that's kind of a little tour of the editing interface. It's pretty easy to use. I think it's a good idea to just go ahead, click on every single button, and see what happens till you feel very comfortable with how it all works. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you'll visit my blog at balzerdesigns.typepad.com for more tips, tricks, and tutorials. And of course, be sure to visit the ScanNCut website at ScanNCut.com.